恭请大德圣听，为此法会急切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死。离苦得乐，殊真无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attemptless and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo saranto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受者，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha, welcome back after a long break. This is lecture number 143. Okay, let us begin. Oh, before we begin, as usual, I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions. If you want to ask in Chinese, you can, but I will need someone to help translate, which I don't think will be a problem. So you can unmute your microphone and ask, or you can type it into the chat box. Okay. All right. Anyone? No? Not yet? Okay. Maybe later. Okay. What you see on your screen is there's a monk, an Indian monk who I think was in robes for 65 years. And this is what he said about loving kindness. He said, the ethics or right conduct of metta, which means loving kindness, provides not only subjective well-being or the opportunity to progress in in the Dharma, I would say in the Dharma here and now, and to enjoy a happy rebirth in the future. So there's benefits to loving kindness in the present and also in the future. And then he says, but it means the giving of fearlessness and security, which in Pali is known as Abhaya Dana and Kema Dana. What does that sound like? Does anyone know? Especially the giving of fearlessness and security. Anyone want to try? What does that sound like? No? Nobody? Want to guess? A hint?
Pastor,
Yes.
Pastor, is it something like this Guan Yin also give this fearlessness, the kind of protection also?
Yes. 100 points to full marks to Melinda. That's what Guanyin Bodhisattva does. Okay, so if you've been wondering why I've been spending such a long time, okay, how many months now talking about loving kindness, is because I've discovered that underlying everything in Buddhism is loving kindness. You need, if you are a monk or a nun, the only weapon you have, okay, if you go to the forest to meditate and you encounter fierce animals, evil spirits, anything at all, the only weapon you have is loving kindness. All right. If you want to be a bodhisattva or you want to be a Buddha, okay, the only, not only you, where do you start? Loving kindness. If you want to meditate, they say precept, samadhi, and wisdom, right? The three baskets, three laksana in Sanskrit. Well, even before you take precepts, you must have loving kindness. Then the precepts make sense. Then when you hold the precepts, actually, when you interact with other living beings, you are actually giving them the gift of fearlessness through loving kindness as you hold the precepts. So everything in Buddhism comes from loving kindness. You have no loving kindness, there's no way you can enter the first dhyana and abide in the first dhyana. Okay, I won't say there's no way. Maybe you can, okay, but you won't be able to enter it properly and abide in the dhyana properly. That's how important loving kindness is. All right, it's so important that people tend to forget, because I don't know, it's if you know how to look for loving kindness, and then when you read all the sutras, whether it's Theravada or Mahayana sutras, then you realize, oh, loving kindness is always there. Okay, all right. So now let's get back to our slides. So 2 weeks ago, for last 2 weeks we didn't have a class, but what we did was this: we finished how to overcome resentment against people we don't like, right? Okay, so our topic today, or rather one of the topics, is equally for all. What is equally for all? Okay, it says when his resentment or her resentment, or rather our or your resentment towards that hostile person has been thus allayed, then one can turn their mind with loving kindness towards that person too, just as towards the one who is dear, the very dear friend, and the neutral person. Then one should break down the barriers by practicing loving kindness over and over again. Okay, if you want to meditate until you get into the first dhyana, pay attention. Accomplishing mental impartiality towards the four persons, that is to say, himself, the dear person, the neutral person, and the hostile person. Okay, what prevents us from entering into deep states of concentration? Ourselves. Is our own habits, our own karma, which we can see in the habits, our mental habits that we have, the way we think, the way we see people. So loving kindness helps us overcome the mental factors that prevent us from entering dhyana. Okay, it's very psychological. It's very, it's all based on cause and effect. It's not magic. There's a reason. Okay. So moving on, it says a characteristic of it is this, meaning what is loving kindness on an equal basis for everyone. It says, suppose this person is sitting in a place with a deer, a neutral, and a hostile person, himself being the fourth. So there's 4 of you, and the other 3 is someone you like, someone you're okay, you don't like, you don't dislike, and the 4th one is someone you definitely don't like. Okay, and then bandits come to you and say, Venerable Sir, give us a bhikkhu. So I think in this example, all 4 are monks or nuns. Okay, and on being asked why, they answer, so that we may kill him and use the blood of his throat as an offering. Oh my. Okay. So then if that bhikkhu thinks, let them take this one or this one, if you have a preference, then it says you have not broken down the barriers yet. That means you still have hindrance to your practice of loving kindness. Then if you think, oh, maybe I want to be a bodhisattva, you sacrifice yourself, and says, oh, and also if he thinks, let them take me, but not these 3, guess what? He has not broken down the barriers either. Okay? So even if you want to sacrifice yourself, it is not, your practice of loving kindness isn't complete yet. All right? So don't think that, how you say, just because you think that might be the right thing to do, oh, I want to become a Pusat and do that. So what happens? Here's why. Because he seeks the harm of him who he wishes to be taken and seeks the welfare of the other only. So there's still a preference in the mind. So it says, but it is when he does not see a single one among the 4 people to be given to the bandits, and he directs his mind impartially towards himself and towards those 3 people, that he has broken down the barriers. All right, so it means that when you see everyone equally, you don't even want one to be sacrificed for anyone else. Then that's the practicing loving kindness in an impartial way for everyone. Okay, that's also why Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they want everyone to be like them. Okay, because they want everyone to be free of suffering. So there's a saying, it says, when he discriminates between the 4, that is himself, the deer, the neutral, and the hostile one, then skilled is not the name he gets, nor having enmity at will, but only kindly towards beings. So your loving kindness is not strong yet. Now, when a bhikkhu's barriers have all the four been broken down, he treats with equal enmity the whole world with his deities. Far more distinguished than the first is he who knows no barriers. Okay, so that's what it means. All right. And it says, thus the sign and access are obtained by this bhikkhu simultaneously with the breaking down of the barriers. I will read the whole thing and I explain what sign and access means. Okay, it says, but when breaking down of the barriers has been effected, he reaches absorption in the way described under the earth kasina without trouble by cultivating, developing, and repeatedly practicing that same sign. Excuse me. So what does that mean? Okay, sign means, especially in the Theravada text, when you meditate and say you choose your topic to be the breath and the nose, and you can slowly see like a bright light at the tip of the nose or a cooling sensation. That's called a sign. That's something for you to concentrate on. Okay, access means the dhyana. All right, access, sometimes they use the word absorption, which is you find in the second paragraph. And then so when breaking down of the barriers have been effected, like I said again, what are the barriers that prevent you from entering dhyana? Our own bad habits. That's the barrier. So loving kindness is a skillful means, excuse me, is a skillful way for us to overcome our own hindrances. Yeah. Okay. So it also says here, under the earth kasina. The earth kasina is used here as representative of your meditation topic. You could be counting your breathing, you could be doing the huatou, you could be reciting a mantra, It doesn't matter what it is. Here they just use the earth kasina. If you have read some of the meditation texts, what is the earth kasina? The earth kasina, okay, is a circle. You take a like a round container. Okay, take a round container, and then what you do is you take clay or earth and you refine it until it's a single color. So when you stare at it, the color is uniform. And then you pack it into that circle and you dry it, and then you suspend that circle in front of you and you just stare at it. That's your meditation topic. Yeah. It's not very popular. Some people do that. Some people, Mahayana, we tend to recite Amitabha's name or concentrate on the breathing. Yeah. So Earth Kasina here just represents your meditation topic. All right. Okay. Why do you do that? Because at this point, you would have attained the first dhyana or jhana. And it says, which abandons 5 factors, possesses 5 factors. I will explain what the 5 factors are. Is good in 3 ways, is endowed with 10 characteristics, and is accompanied by loving kindness. Okay, first paragraph. The 5 factors, I have a slide later, which I'll show you what the 5 factors is. Good in 3 ways means good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. And then when it says endowed with 10 characteristics, it refers to the beginning, middle, and end. In the beginning, there are 3 characteristics. In the middle, there are 3, and in the 4. I'm getting mixed up in the numbers. And in the end, there's 4 characteristics. It's very technical. Which is a way for me to say I don't know how to explain very well, because it's just, I can share. If anyone is interested, let me know in the WhatsApp group and I can share through WhatsApp, but I don't think it's going to help us in our discussion right now. So that's what 10 characteristics means, okay, if anyone is curious. And when that has been attained, then by cultivating, developing, and repeatedly practicing that same sign meaning your meditation topic, he successively reaches the 2nd and 3rd jhana or dhyanas in the 4-fold system, and the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the 5-fold system. Now, it is by means of one of these dhyanas, beginning with the first, that he dwells pervading or intent upon one direction with his heart endued, actually I think it's imbued with loving kindness. Likewise, the 2nd direction, likewise the 3rd direction, the 4th, and so above, below, around, everywhere, and equally, he dwells pervading the entire world with his heart endued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, measureless, free from enmity, and free from affliction. So that's a standard formula given in the sutras for practicing loving kindness. So in other words, that you expand your loving kindness in 10 directions. But you can only do that, okay? What the sutras don't tell you is that to practice this effectively is not just using your imagination. You can only do this well when you reach the dhyanas. Before that, you are just kind of like play acting, you're not really doing it. Yeah, so you need to be in the first dhyana and above before you can practice expanding your loving kindness in the 10 directions. All right? Okay. Now, let's go to what dhyana means, okay? Because dhyana is pretty important. It's connected to the Amitabha Sutra. Okay, dhyana in Sanskrit, jhana in Pali, chan in Chinese, zen in English, which comes from Japanese. They take the word chan and they call it zen. Okay, it's a pure state of mind. That's why it's very important. Okay, dhyana occurs when the mind temporarily withdraws from external sensory awareness and remains completely absorbed in an ideational object of meditation, like reciting the Buddha's name, for example. So you enter dhyana not by paying attention to your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, but by withdrawing. from them. Okay, but withdrawing not like sleeping. Okay, it's not like you are in a stupor where you don't know what's going on. Your mind is always bright and concentrated. You're always aware. Okay, you're aware. At the very least, you're aware of what you're focusing on. So the mind is very bright. It's not dull. Yeah. The four dhyanas are characterized by an increasing attenuation of consciousness as one progresses from one stage to the next. What does that mean, attenuation? It means getting less and less. That means your consciousness, which refers to the sixth consciousness that we are using right now, the false thinking mind, it gets suppressed. It gets more and more quiet. And it says the deepening of concentration leads the meditator temporarily to allay the five hindrances and to put in place the five constituents of absorption or dhyana. Okay, so just now there were the five factors. We are coming to that in our next slide. Let me take a drink. While you look at the slide, let me take some drink. Okay. If you look at your screen, if you look on the left, the heading, the five hindrances, these are things that we encounter in our everyday lives, in our minds, that prevent us from achieving concentration. So if you've been trying to recite the Buddha's name and you can't get anywhere, you're trying to count your breathing, it's because of these five things. What are these five things? Sensuous desire, which is basically, what we chase for our whole life, sensual desire, restlessness and worry, malice, sloth and torpor, and skeptical doubt. These five things prevent us from uncovering the potential of our wisdom. Okay? And what do they prevent? Well, sensual desire prevents you from getting one-pointedness of mind, which is concentration. Concentration. Restlessness and worry prevents your mind from feeling at ease. Okay. Malice, if you don't have any loving kindness at all, and all you feel is malice or animosity for living beings, your body will not feel comfortable. You will never know what comfort feels like. Real comfort. Why? Because your body is always tense. And then sloth and torpor hinders applied thought, and skeptical doubt hinders sustained thought. All right. So what happens is this: in the first dhyana, all right, you have all five of the five factors of dhyana. You have overcome the five hindrances in the first dhyana. So you have one-pointedness of mind. You have mental ease. Your body feels very comfortable. You are able to apply your thought and sustain the application of thought in the first dhyana. Okay. But what happens when you move to the second dhyana is your applied thought and sustained thought disappears. Okay, so maybe let me go back to the first dhyana. Let me share what Shifu has to say. Shifu says the first dhyana is called the stage of joy of abandoning coarse desires. So your breathing stops. Sometimes Shifu says the pulse stops. Sometimes Shifu says the breathing stops. If you can get to the first dhyana, it doesn't make any difference. But the thing is, when you get there and you try to think whether you're still breathing or you have a pulse, then guess what happens? You will fall out of the first dhyana. So you don't want that. So Shifu says that when you enter the first dhyana, there's a very special joy that you feel, that it is out of this world. It is for anyone who has not entered the first dhyana before, they will have never felt this joy or ease because nothing in this world can give you that feeling. It's only when you withdraw from your senses and your mind is fully concentrated can you feel this joy. And that's why people who live the home life and they meditate, they realize for themselves that the suffering in this world is real, whereas the practice itself leads to the ending of suffering. That's one way of looking at it. But when you go into the second dhyana, your consciousness gets more refined. So goes away. There's no more thinking. So Shifu says this is called the stage of joy from samadhi. And you, how you say, you can sit here and don't need food or drink. You forget about hunger because you will not feel hunger and you will not feel thirst. So in the second dhyana, you have one-pointedness of mind, you have mental ease, you have physical rapture, but thinking stops. In the second dhyana, it's more refined. And then you can see in the third dhyana, the body disappears. The body, even though the body is very comfortable, you don't sense the body anymore. Yeah. And so the only thing you have or you're aware of is that your concentration and that your mind is very at ease. Yeah. And then when you get to the fourth dhyana, only your concentration remains. Shofa says this is called the stage of purity from renouncing thought. He says thoughts are completely still. He says, Shofa says, in this state, not only are thoughts completely still, but also they are let go of. At this point, you will experience an extremely pure and wondrous form of happiness. But Shofa says this doesn't mean that you have ended birth and death. Okay, it is just a temporary state of mind. It is the status of ordinary people. But it is from here that you can uncover your wisdom, which is what the Buddha did to show us the way. Okay? All right, so what else does Shufa say? Shufa says when one enters the first dhyana, one can sit for 7 days without getting up from one sit. At that time, one can also go without eating, drinking, or sleeping. So I think Elder Master Hsien, when he on one of his travels in his biography, if I remember correctly, I read it many years ago. He made a stop in Thailand or Burma, and to create affinities with the locals in a temple, he sat in dhyana. So he sat there for a few days and he impressed everyone. People say, oh, that monk or the Chinese monk from China, oh, he's the real deal because in Thailand, monks there meditate a lot. So they were convinced that Elder Master Hsien Lao Sang was the real deal. Yeah. So that's what happens when you can enter the first dhyana. And the next slide is the Amitabha Sutra, which I'm going to connect to. But for now, Shufa says in the second dhyana, you can sit for 49 days. Just sit there without moving. No breaks, no nothing, no food, nothing. Second dhyana. And then when you go into the third dhyana, you can sit for 3 years. And then in the fourth dhyana, you can sit for 9 years. So if you find a mountain cave somewhere and you can enter the fourth dhyana, you don't have to come down for 9 years. And Shufa says that happiness experienced in dhyana meditation far surpasses the happiness connected with the 5 senses. Yeah, this is something you have to experience to understand. The closest to explain, how to explain, it's like you wake up one day and you realize that everyone loves you, you have no enemies, you are very popular, your health is forever perfect, you have all the money in the world in your bank account, anything you want you can get, you have no worries at all, no worries, nothing can make you upset. And that's not even 0.001% of the actual feeling that you get from the dhyana. Yeah. Okay. So,
Pastor,
yes,
I have a question.
Yes,
for
please.
those sitting for so long, what about their spirit? Whether the spirit is it leave the body?
No, not in this instance. Those with spiritual abilities, okay, they can. If you want to, you can go do whatever you want. For example, there's a story about what's the monk's name? There was a monk in Taiwan, the fruit monk. Was it Ching? I can't remember his name.
Guang, what, 法师, I know which
Okay,
one.
when you can remember, or anyone can remember, please type in the chat box. So when Shufu visited him in Taiwan, Shufu said that he was a first stage arhat. He was a stream enterer. So when Shufu visited him in Taiwan, Shufu introduced him to Ramo Heng Shuo and Heng Chao, which is Mati now, who were doing the 3 steps 1 bow. And Shufu said, oh, these two are doing the 3 steps 1 bow. And he told Shufu, yeah, I saw them when I was flying over America. He saw them doing 3 steps 1 bow. So yes, there are some people who can do that. But in Dhyana, okay, when you enter Dhyana, it doesn't mean that your spirit is doing something. As far as you're concerned, okay, when you get up from your state, from your Dhyana state, when you come out of it, if someone tells you you've been sitting there 5 minutes, 5 minutes. If someone tells you you've been there for 5 hours, 5 hours. It doesn't make any difference, because you realize that time is a construct of the conscious mind. So as you're sitting there, it's not that your spirit is flying around or anything. You are just sitting there, your mind is very concentrated. But the concept of time as how normal people see time is very different. You have a very different relationship from time. That's the best way I can explain. The only way you can tell time, I guess, is if you have a clock on the wall, or you have something like water dripping constantly. That's kind of how you can tell that time passes, because 5 minutes, 5 hours, 50 minutes, it feels the same. It doesn't feel like it's very long. Yeah, why? Because your mind stops. Your mind is very refined. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but time doesn't make any difference anymore when you are in these states. You are aware of time. Like, for example, you can say, okay, I want to sit only for 2 days, and you can, after 2 days is up, you know you can get up, but you won't feel like you've been sitting there for like, oh, so long, 48 hours. It doesn't feel that way. Okay, all right. So in the Amitabha Sutra, or the short Amitabha Sutra, okay, there's a passage that says, Shariputra, if there is a good man or good woman who hears spoken Amitabha and holds the name, whether for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4, 5, 6 days, as long as 7 days, with one heart unconfused, when this person approaches the end of life, before him will appear Amitabha and all the assembly of holy ones. When the end comes, his heart is without inversion. In Amitabha's land of ultimate bliss, he will attain rebirth. Okay, this is another reason why we are spending so much time learning about the practice of loving kindness. Because one heart unconfused for up to 7 days, all right, according to Shifu, that is at least the first dhyana. Okay, so now you know how important the loving kindness is, and dhyanas correspondingly. Okay, all right. So what happens when you don't have loving kindness? Okay, say you perform an act of giving, but you have the opposite of loving kindness. What happens? Okay, some of you may know this story. It's from the stories of hungry ghosts. It's called the sugar cane ghost. I think in the in Pali it's called the Peta, or that is there on the screen, Peta Watu Wana. Yeah, number 40. So it says one day, Venerable Mahamoggallana, he was going out for alms, and he saw this hungry ghost next to a magnificent sugar cane field. And the sugar cane there was very plump, and says the size of a pestle, that means very big, and was jet black. I guess when sugar cane is jet black, is at its juiciest and sweetest, I guess. So what Venerable Mahamoggallana saw, and Venerable Mahamoggallana was known for, I think, foremost in spiritual powers, if I'm not mistaken. So he saw that every time this poor hungry ghost tried to get some sugarcane to eat, because hungry ghosts are very hungry, hence the name hungry ghost. Every time he tried to take any sugar cane, he would be bitten by the sugar cane until the pain was so unbearable that he would faint. So, witnessing this, the ghost then saw Venerable Mahamoggallana standing there, and he went to him for help. He said, "This great grove of sugar cane appears before me, yet is of no use to me as I am unable to take any. The leaves cut me and the stalks hit me until I faint. I am constantly in grief." Just give me a second, let me adjust my microphone. I realized my microphone was too high and I've been trying to sit too tall. Okay, now it's more comfortable. It says, "I'm constantly in grief, in hardship, famished, tired and hungry in the heat. Good sir, of what deed is this the result? How may I get some food?" So basically he's asking for help and asking why is his karma that way. So Venerable Mahamoggallana said, in a past life you created a deed. It means you have bad karma, in other words. He says, now hear and understand it as such. Actually, when I say bad karma is not the right term. Karma is neutral. It's only how you interpret the effects that you undergo that you then call it bad or good karma. Because if you like the effects, you call it good. If you don't like it, you call it bad. But if you practice to a certain point where you have more patience, you have more loving kindness, then what might be bad karma for someone else because they don't like it, for you may be neutral karma or an opportunity to transform yourself, to identify your bad habits, then it becomes good. So there's no such thing as karma is neutral. Yeah. Okay. Venerable Mahamoggallana told him, he said, you were chewing sugarcane in his past life. Okay, he's talking about his past life. You were chewing sugarcane and carrying it on your back. A man came up from behind you with a child who asked for some sugarcane. You did not even bother to look at them. Only when the child began to cry did you then rudely and carelessly threw a piece of sugarcane behind you all the time without looking at them. Due to your selfishness and disrespectfulness, this is now your result. Okay, so you can see what happened. No ounce of loving kindness, actually the opposite. And without looking, he just threw it behind his back. So Venerable Mahamoggallana said, now look here, you may take some sugar cane behind you without looking. In other words, he says, if you approach the sugar cane walking backwards, then you can take it and you can eat it to your heart's content. Through this very act, you will become pleased, delightful, joyful, and happy. Okay. The hungry ghost did as advised and he was able to obtain and eat the sugar cane. So he became very happy, he was very pleased, very delighted, joyful. So what did he do? Well, because he was very happy and he was very thankful for Venerable Mahamoggallana's advice, he then was able to handle a bundle of sugar cane and he wanted to offer it to Venerable Mahamoggallana. But what did Venerable Mahamoggallana do? He led the hungry ghost to where the Buddha was, which was at the bamboo grove. And there, Venerable Mahamoggallana offered it to the Buddha and the Sangha on behalf of the hungry ghost. And then the hungry ghost, with devotion in his heart, paid respects to the Buddha. And from then on, the story said, that anytime he was hungry, he was able to obtain the sugarcane using the trick Venerable Mahamoggallana taught him. And when he died, because of his meritorious deeds as an offering to the Buddha, he was reborn as a god in the heaven of the 33, the Triumphantria heaven, where Chakra Tigong or Jade Emperor is right now. So, this is also the way Bodhisattvas help people, like Guanyin. Guanyin will try her best to make you happy. Why? Because when you are miserable, like the hungry ghost, it is very, very difficult to create merit. Merit comes from a heart of joy. When you are undergoing difficulty in your life, it is how do you say? It is very hard to think about helping others when you're unable to help yourself. Yeah. So that's why loving kindness is important, because it allows you to create merit in everything that you do, because merit also comes from right intention, and right intention requires a component of loving kindness, which is another reason why we are spending so much time on loving kindness. Because if you don't have loving kindness, then you don't have right intention, and then what happens if you don't have right intention? Then you may do something that you regret and become a hungry ghost. So that's not what you want. Okay, so let's take this opportunity to look at the mental attitude for giving. This is from a book called the Buddha Vamsa, the Great Chronicle of Buddhas. It says, when the recipient of alms happens to be a dear person, he should be glad by reflecting, one who is dear to me asked me for something. If the recipient is a neutral person, the person doing the giving should be glad by reflecting, by making this offering to him, I will surely gain his friendship. But if the person that's asked for something is a hostile person, which most people, okay, normal people will try their best not to give, okay, a wise person will actually become happy. It would especially rejoice by reflecting, my enemy asked for something. By this offering to him, he will surely become a dear friend of mine. That's a bodhisattva thought right there. So thus, he should make an offering to all in the same way as he does to a dear person with compassion, preceded or on the foundation of loving kindness. Okay? Okay, let me see. What time is it? 10:27. Okay, we have time. Do we have any questions at this moment?
Pastor, from
Yes.
the story here, very small action, but the cost of the effect is so great. But you see, normally when those we know in our daily life, normally, let's say we know the person's character is not the kind of soft talking, that kind of people. And we try not to have any conflict with all those people. So that's why we try to keep a distance away from these type of people. Is it considered no loving kindness?
Oh, no. You can't. Okay. Okay. That kind of question, it depends on the context or the situation. So a simple yes or no, I think, would be misleading. So let me understand your question first. Okay, your question is that sometimes there are people who are very difficult to deal with, and if we minimize our contact with them, does it mean that we do not show loving kindness? Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So at our level, the practice of loving kindness is more of what do you call? It's more of it happens in the mind. It doesn't really translate to action yet. Okay, so the practice of loving kindness happens in the mind first. In this slide that we have in front of us is when someone asks you for something. So it's not you trying to do something for the person who you are not sure how they will react. Maybe they react with anger. Even if you do something good, they might react with anger. So from experience, you just stay away from them. In this instance, it is them coming to you for help. So they open up the opportunity for you to help them. So in that instance, if you don't do anything, I don't think it's a wise action, or it depends. Sometimes only try your best. In other words, gauge the situation, try your best, and do what you think is right. Yeah. But in this instance, like I said, they're coming to you for help. So when they come to you for help, then the principle here is that even if it's a person that you don't like, as long as you maintain loving kindness for that person and your intention is pure, that's the most you can do. If the person react badly, it says, "Oh, this is not what I want." Why? why when I ask you for this, you give me something which is not what I want, and they get upset. You cannot control them. You can only control your part. Okay, so loving kindness is more well-wishing for yourself and for the well-being of others. Technically, that's the practice of loving kindness. In this instance, it is people approaching you for help, and in this world, you because of our limited wisdom and also our limited ability to practice loving kindness, maybe we just start loving kindness or we're not good at it yet. We have to be realistic. We can't, how you say, doesn't mean we have to or can help everyone. Okay, I hope that helps. Does anyone have anything they want to help out with Melinda's question? Any suggestions, ideas? No? Okay, if you have, you can unmute your microphone or put in the chat box. Going on, okay, what if you have loving kindness? What if you practice loving kindness? All right. So there's a story of a monk called Venerable Visakha. So he heard about a place called Ceylon of Sri Lanka, and he wanted to go to the place and maybe help spread the Dharma, because that's what happened. That's how Buddhism went to Sri Lanka. So he became a monk, and then he studied the precepts for 5 months, and then he left the Mahavihara, the great temple where he was, for a group of monasteries which were suitable places for meditation. Okay, so basically he practiced meditation for quite some time, and then so he made his way, and he wanted to go to a hill monastery called Chitala, and then he came to a junction of 2 roads, and while he was thinking which road to follow, the Deva of the hill guided him to the right direction. So he got heavenly directions on. He had no GPS, but he had Deva GPS. So accordingly, he arrived at the monastery and stayed for 4 months there. After planning to go to another monastery the following day, he went to sleep. While he was sleeping, the spirit of an emerald green tree sat on a wooden plank at the edge of a staircase and wept. Okay, so while he was sleeping, the spirit in a tree, not spirit of a tree. Trees don't have spirits. There are spirits who live in trees. Yeah, that's the better way to put it. There are spirits who live in trees. So one of the spirits came beside him and started crying. So who is weeping here? Asked the monk. And the spirit said, "Oh, I'm a spirit of the emerald green tree." And they asked, "Why are you crying?" He said, "Oh, because you're going to leave." And the monk said, "What advantage is there to you of my stay here?" Then the spirit revealed, he said, "Your stay here makes the local devas, demons, and others show loving kindness to one another. After your leaving, they will quarrel among themselves with even using harsh words." So why? It's not stated here, but in the commentaries it says it's because Venerable Visakha was practicing loving kindness. And when he was practicing loving kindness, he was radiating it towards the 10 directions. And it had a profound effect on the spiritual beings there. So the monk agreed. He said, "If my stay here really helps you live happily, as you have told," then he said, "I will stay for another 4 months. When the 4 months was up, he wanted to leave, but then the spirit managed to persuade him to stay again. So the story ends by saying, in this way, the monk could not leave the place at all and pass into Nibbana at the same monastery of Chitala. So he stayed there until he died. I think when they say pass into Nibbana, he became an arhat there, if I'm not mistaken. I won't be surprised, because if his practice of loving kindness had such a profound effect. And it says, the story shows that those who receive metta, or loving kindness, not only love him who directs metta to them, but they show goodwill to one another under the influence of his metta. Yeah. So metta is another way where you can influence your environment. But at the same time, you could bet that you will also receive, like Venerable Visakha, you also receive the protection of the spirits in your area. Okay. All right. Now we go do something very interesting, because this talks about the perfection of loving kindness, and it is from a Theravada text actually. But if you look at the content, it's actually a Mahayana subject. It's about how a bodhisattva practices. So how does a bodhisattva perfect the loving kindness? Okay, he says, even one occupied entirely with one's personal welfare, a selfish person, one could not gain prosperity in this or future life without promoting loving kindness for the well-being of others. So what does the first sentence mean? One preoccupied entirely with one's personal welfare. It means that if you are so selfish that you spend all your time only thinking about benefiting yourself, okay? If you spend all your energy and time on yourself, what the first sentence says is that you're just wasting your time, because you're not going to gain any prosperity. Maybe the only thing you gain is become a hungry ghost, like the sugarcane hungry ghost, you know. So it goes on, it says, how much more should a bodhisattva, wishing to establish all beings in the bliss of nibbana or nirvana, develop it? Only by fostering infinite loving kindness for them can a bodhisattva establish all beings in nirvana or nibbana. So this here comes again the 10 directions. Okay, when you do the 10 directions, as far as we are concerned, what does 10 directions mean? It means no matter where you go, no matter who you meet, okay, no matter who comes to your mind, that's the 10 directions. You show them loving kindness. Or if you are unable to show, because we are not bodhisattvas yet, at least underlying our intent, we have feelings of loving kindness for them. Okay, so the Mahabuddha Vamsa goes on to say, wishing to help later all beings achieve the supramundane bliss of nirvana when I become a Buddha, I should begin right now, wishing them it advance mundane prosperity. So don't wait until you become a bodhisattva. If you wait until you become a bodhisattva, you never become a bodhisattva. It's only when you try to be like a bodhisattva that you can become a bodhisattva and you eventually become a Buddha. That's what it means. So any opportunity you have now, you try your best. It says, if I could not perform now the mere mental act of wishing for their welfare, when would I accomplish the verbal and physical deeds of helping them achieve their welfare? So now if you can't even think about it, okay, if you see someone you don't like and all you have is hatred or animosity in your heart, how can you go take even the next step, which is through speech and through actions of the body, like Melinda's question? So you start, at the very least, you start with your thoughts. And it says, these beings who are nurtured now with loving kindness would in future become heirs and companions, and in the future occasion of sharing my Dharma inheritance. This last sentence is very, very interesting. So what it really means, okay, I won't say what it really means, but how you can interpret, one of the ways you can interpret what this sentence means is your future Buddha land, when you are going to inherit when you become the Buddha. So who is going to go to your future Buddha land? Well, it's all the beings right now that you treat with loving kindness. You develop positive affinities with them throughout countless lifetimes as you progress. When you become a bodhisattva, from the first ground all the way to the 10th ground, and you continually treat all living beings with loving kindness, then when you become a Buddha and you have your Buddha land, okay, depending on your Buddha name, that land will be named after your Buddha name. Guess what? All those people who want to come to you, like how all of us want to go to, or some of us want to go to the Pure Land, Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, is because Amitabha Buddha, from a long, long time ago, okay, every time he met us, he always treated us with loving kindness, which results in us having this natural disposition to want to go to join him in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss. That's what it means. Okay, you don't want to be a Buddha and have no one wants to come to your Buddha land. Your Buddha land will be empty. Yeah, that won't happen. Why? Because the only way you can become a Buddha is by treating people with loving kindness. And consequently, because you treat them well, they kind of remember. They don't remember, but they have that karmic affinity with you. And then eventually they will come to your Buddha land and slowly become Buddhas themselves. Okay, so that's one way you can understand that last sentence. Is very profound. Okay, very, very profound. Okay. And moving on, he says, without these beings, there would be no requisites for my paramitas. Therefore, they form complementary conditions for fulfillment and accomplishment of all the attributes of a Buddha. They serve as a highly fertile field for sowing the seeds of merit, the best location for performing of meritorious deeds, the unique site to be revered. In this manner, one should especially cultivate goodwill towards all beings. Okay, what does this mean? All right. When you look at a monk or a nun and they wear the sash is called a field of blessings. Okay, that's why they have squares, all the different squares like a paddy field, a rice field. A field of blessings is an opportunity for you to create blessings so that in your future lives you will be better off than in your present life, to create merit and to create blessings. That's called a field of merit. From a bodhisattva's point of view, who are the field of merit? All living beings. Because it is only through living beings that you can become a Buddha. So it's turned around. Okay, from our vantage point, our confused vantage point, we see monastics or sages as field of blessings. But for bodhisattvas, they see all living beings as their field of blessings. Okay, so you can see how it's very profound. So it says there could be no requisites for my paramitas. What does that mean? Paramitas, there are two formulas for paramitas, 6 and 10. Okay, commonly there's 6. What are the 6? Generosity, okay, virtue, patience, number 3. Number 4 is energy or diligence or vigor or effort. Number 5 is Dhyana paramita or concentration, one-pointed concentration. Number 6 is prajna paramita, which means wisdom. So the first one is Dana paramita or generosity. Second one is Sila paramita or virtue or morality. Third one is Kshanti paramita or patience or tolerance. Why? Because living beings are very hard to deal with. Number 4 is Virya paramita or vigor or effort. That means not being lazy. Number 5 is Dhyana paramita, which is concentration or samadhi. Number 6 is Prajna paramita, which is wisdom. So those are the common 6 paramitas. But on the journey to Buddhahood, there are 4 more. Okay, number 7 is Upaya paramita, which means skillful means. That means learning how to deal with different kinds of people, like Melinda's question. Some people are very hard to deal with. So hard that you don't know how to deal with them. Well, if you have skillful means, you know exactly what to do. So that's number 7. Number 8 is Pradidana paramita, or the paramita of vows or resolution or determination or aspiration, ambition. That's number 8. Number 9 is Bala paramita, which is spiritual power. And number 10 is Jana paramita or knowledge. So the first 3, okay, generosity, precepts or virtue, and patience is outward, is to benefit living beings. Okay, that means you're doing it to help people around you. Then the next 3, which is vigor or effort, concentration, and wisdom or insight, is to overcome your own afflictions. It's inward. You do it for yourself, to better yourself. And then the last 4, which is skillful means, ambition or resolution or vows, okay, spiritual powers and knowledge, is to achieve transcendence, which means to become a Buddha. So if you have read the Avatamsaka Sutra or the Flower Adornment Sutra, you realize that the 10 paramitas correspond to the 10 grounds of a bodhisattva. On the first ground, the first paramita is perfected. And on the second ground, the second paramita is perfected all the way to the 10th ground. And how do you perfect the paramitas? It's not sitting in a cave somewhere, it's when you deal with people. So that's why it says, without beings, without living beings, there will be no requisite for my paramitas. That means your paramitas will be empty without living beings. It is only by dealing with people that you create your skill or you perfect your paramitas. That's why they say, without living beings, there will be no Buddhas. Because how can you become a Buddha if there's no living beings? How are you going to achieve Buddhahood if you don't achieve it through living beings? That's what it means. Okay, so that's why they see living beings as a field for sowing the seeds of merit. Okay, so that's why we should all cultivate goodwill or loving kindness towards all beings. All right? Okay. Then it says the attributes of loving kindness should also be reflected on this way. Compassion is the first and foremost of all fundamental practices which lead to Buddhahood. For the Bodhisattva, who delights in providing welfare and happiness of all beings without discrimination, loving kindness and the desire to remove their suffering and misfortune, compassion becomes firmly rooted and powerful. Thus, loving kindness, which forms a foundation of compassion, should be developed towards all beings. So what does the last line mean? Loving kindness, which forms a foundation of compassion. If you want compassion, like Kuan Yin Pusat, okay, if you want compassion, you first must have loving kindness. Why? Okay. Loving kindness is the wish for yourself and other beings to be happy. Okay? So when you have that wish, that sincere wish that other beings are happy, and when one of those people that you care for a lot suddenly encounter suffering, because you have loving kindness for them, you wish that their suffering is elevated. You wish that they do not undergo suffering. That is what compassion is. So if you need loving kindness first for compassion to arise. Okay, if not, your compassion is not real compassion. Okay, all right, it's time. Do we have any more questions from anyone? Ron, I'm surprised you don't have any questions. Not to put you on the spot, but
That's okay. No questions today. Just trying to absorb everything here.
okay.
I have a question, Dharma Master.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you were talking about spirits. That spirits can live anywhere. They can come and make the tree or whatever their abode. So my question is, when we place Buddha images or Bodhisattvas images in our house on our altar table, can these spirits come into the Bodhisattva or Buddha's image and live there? So like they are in Buddha image. So we're like praying to the spirit instead.
Oh,
Is that possible?
I have never heard of something like that happening. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I've never come across something like that. The closest I've come, okay, when it comes to trees, okay, trees are special because trees are like for spirits, trees are it's like a condo, it's like an apartment building. So if it's a huge tree, it can house different families of spirits, which is why for monastics, we don't chop down any trees. We don't even pluck flowers. Actually, we don't pluck flowers for a different reason, but we don't chop down trees. And if we have to chop down a tree, we do it very respectfully. Only if we have no other choice, number one. And then number two, we have to put a notice up on the tree and announce to the inhabitants of the tree that we have no choice but to cut down this tree and give them enough time to relocate. Yeah. So there are stories like that, but there are no stories that like a spirit enters a Buddha image. Yeah, the closest I've heard is Shofu say there are spirits who do go to altars. They don't. It's not they stay in the altar, no, but they visit altars, and sometimes I think they get their food from the offering, something like that. Yeah. So I think when you have the image of the Buddha or Bodhisattva in front of you, don't ever have that thought, because because then you are totally based on speculation, superstition, and I don't know what else. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So regarding the one that spirits live in trees, because not everybody is aware that spirits live in trees. Not everyone is aware of that. And if you do cut down a tree, and if there is a spirit living there, what would you have committed wrong?
Oh, okay. When it comes to, let me see. Let me try to remember. There are stories where some people, they go to a forest or something and accidents happen while they're chopping down trees and all that. But if you are totally innocent, okay, and you have no idea, usually I think there's a code. Oh, excuse me. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Something happened to my computer. I thought something. Okay, there's usually a code of conduct where they do not do anything. They are not allowed to harm you because you do not know. Something like that. Yeah, I have to find. I've read stories where something something like that. But then again, it's very hard to say. Yeah. So we don't worry about people who don't know. Okay. We just worry about our own conduct. And if we are involved in having to cut down a tree or trim a tree, then we just have to be a bit more careful with ourselves. Yeah.
Would it be safe to say that it is best not to chop down trees?
Oh, of course. Why would anyone want to chop down a tree?
I mean, if say some people, they plant a tree in their house, like say a mango tree, and the roots are outgrowing and destroying the flooring of the of the house. So they may have no choice but to chop down the tree.
Okay, I don't think every tree will have. It's only trees of a certain size and above. But in instance like that, where you have to protect your property, now that we know, okay, what we do at monasteries, at the city of 10,000 Buddhas, where we have there's a lot of trees at the city of 10,000 Buddhas. So what they do is this, so if the tree is affecting your property, you don't really have a choice. So you put up a notice and you announce verbally as well to the tree, the inhabitants of the tree, stating your problem, and that by a certain time you need to remove the tree, and you ask for their understanding, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because many years ago, I didn't chop down the tree myself lah, but I told someone to chop off the tree because the tree is quite old, and it's destroying the flooring of the house. So we had the tree chopped down. So I do not know if there's any spirit living in the tree. You see?
Oh,
and I was not aware, that you must put notices or inform or pray to the tree.
So
that kind of thing.
spirits tend to know more than we do. you know. So they how you say, usually they understand. Like for example, this spirit who didn't want the monk to leave the temple, the monastery, because he knew that the monk had a very positive effect on the place. So don't I wouldn't worry about it, because spirits are very understanding as well. They can understand the reason why you do certain things. Yeah.
And
Oh,
when we chop down the tree, does it mean that the spirit is being killed?
oh no. They just have to look for a new house. Yeah.
It is not that they have been killed.
No, because they're not the tree. Yeah, they're not the tree. They just live in, it's like a condo, it's like an apartment block for them. They just happen to live there. So there are story, one of the story I remember is, the tree had, something had to be done to a tree, and then the inhabitants of the tree had to find a new place, and then they went to, I think, Lord Indra Chakra, and asked him to find a new place for them, and then they all relocated. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So to answer your question, there was there's a story. Okay, the circumstances may be different, but the principle is the same. Okay, and I hope this will put your mind at rest. So there was a monk who found a pool, and the pool was very pure, it had a lot of lotuses. And so when the monk was walking by the pool, the monk happened to smell the fragrance from the lotus flowers, and he enjoyed himself. He said, "Oh, this smells very nice. This is a very nice place." And then the spirit of the pond started scolding the monk. Spirit of the pond scolded. He said, "How can you, as a monk, indulge yourself in your senses? How can you enjoy the the smell of the flowers?" Then the monk said, "Well, okay, I can understand why you are scolding me. Actually, it's for his own good, Then he asked the spirit, the guardian spirit of the pond. He said, "Why, when earlier, all those rowdy men came and they were indiscriminately picking and destroying the plants and picking the flowers and the lotus seeds, the harvesting the thing from your pond, why didn't you say anything?" He asked the spirit. Then the spirit said, "Well, those are just normal people. They don't know anything. They don't know any better," the spirit said. "But you as a bhikkhu, he said, you as a bhikkhu who has learned the Dharma under the Buddha, and your objective, your intent is to end birth and death, you should know better." So that's how he scolded the pond spirit, guardian spirit, scolded the monk. Okay, so they know, how you say, they understand what's going on. Yeah, so he said those lay people who, not lay people, those men who, brutish men who came and breaking the flowers, destroying the area, say they don't know any better. That's their nature. So don't worry about it, Sui. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Dharma Master.
All right, unless the tree branch fall on your head, and then you're worried, did you anger any tree spirit? Then maybe the answer is yes, but that didn't happen, and it happened a long time ago, so don't worry about it. Okay, good question. Anyone else? Any question? Yes, Ron.
Sure. Regarding to just previous person asking the question, I forgot her name.
Sui Ling, yes.
But I don't know if this is related, but it just happened that I was reading some passage, a commentary on the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra, and it says that something about, I should have marked it down, but I was going to ask you about this, that there are protectors that protect your home if you, I think they're around your home all the time if you create merit, if you cultivate and create merit. they are there to protect you. But if you don't create any merit, those kind of protectors don't show up.
Yes, not only in the Earth Law Sutra, it says that in this very sutra that we are studying right now, the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra, that happens as well. And it's not just your the spirits around you, but it is the 12 yaksha generals that pledged this to the Buddha. Meaning, if you could divide all the if you could divide all the including evil spirits, okay, including the evil spirits, if you divide them into 12 gangs, the bosses of each of the 12 gangs actually tell the Buddha that all their underlings will protect people who practice the path. Yeah, which is why loving kindness is so important. If you practice loving kindness, you will be protected. Yeah, even if you do something wrong and it's unintentional because you don't know any better, no harm will come to you. Yeah. All right. And we'll come to that when in a few months' time, when we come to that passage in our Medicine Master Buddha Sutra.
I think I have a real quick question. This is bothering me.
Yes.
If one leaves, like for example, here's a sutra, a sutra class, and for some reason we leave before you transfer merit or dedicate merit, does that mean that the person who left doesn't get any merit?
No, merit comes from intention, from right intention. Yeah. And what is right intention? When you have thoughts of renunciation, that means reducing your desires and your attachment. When you have thoughts of loving kindness, okay, when you have thoughts of compassion, you create merit. If you don't have those thoughts, then you create demerit. So basically what happens is if we create certain habits, so say a sutra lecture, and I always leave halfway in the sutra lecture or before the transference of merit. Why? Because I dismiss it. Then basically what I'm doing is I'm creating that habit for myself in the future where it becomes normal to do that. Then I miss out on it. So it's a practice that I can learn, but I miss out on it, or I don't hear the remaining of the sutra and I don't even know. And it becomes normal for me. So you have to ask yourself what kind of practitioner you want to be, and you create those habits right now. Like the passage we read about the Bodhisattva who thinks, in the future, I want to save all these living beings. If now I can't even develop thoughts of loving kindness, then I must as well forget about acts of loving kindness and speech based on loving kindness. So practice is about thinking about who you want to be and then trying your best to behave like that now. So when it comes to leaving early, it's not that you get punished or anything. It's just that you become that person who denies themselves what other people could otherwise get. That's all. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Pasha.
Okay. All right. So with that, let us dedicate merit. I hope you all stay. Don't listen to Ron. You all stay for dedication of merit. Okay. Don't get any ideas from Ron. Okay. All right. I'm going to put my palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Realm Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, Amitabha everyone. Thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see each other again next week.